600 years ago, white supremacy wasn't really a thing. 600 years ago, it was just, there were human beings in the world. There were just people. Some from Africa, some from Europe, some from Asia. They're just people. And then the Europeans began to go exploring. Their ships are able to go all over the world, and so they got greedy as fuck, and they had the musket. And 1455, the Roman Catholic Church made a law, and they split. They gave Portugal the right to the west coast of Africa, and they gave them the right to enslave Africans, to plunder them, to rape them, to rob them, and steal from anything they wanted from them. The Roman Catholic Church started the whole goddamn thing. And then, of course, they gave Spain the right to go out into the New World, conquer, steal gold, land, whatever they want to do, rape, murder. And that's exactly what they did. And that's exactly it. It started, over 500 years ago. Today's 2020, and this is 1455. And the first ship, 1526, the first slave ship from Portugal landed in Brazil. And the whole goddamn thing began. And that's how we got where we are. And so, why did white supremacy start? To justify the greed.
All right, Shalom. This is Hara One by Yasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. I want to say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Harakah Kodash, Ma'amah. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and their elders. And Shalom to you, Akim and Akwatim and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. Yeah, man, you seen that guy that was talking. I don't know if he a Jake or Edomite. He kind of seemed like an Edomite to me. Just like back during the times of slavery or the civil rights movement, you had a lot of Edomites that would try to help us out. And the scriptures say that their children shall seek to please the poor. All right, so you're going to have some of their children that's going to still be in that pride, and some of the Edomites that's going to be trying to seek to please the poor. But now check this out. But the Lord said, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not go unpunished. So I don't care who it is. They're Esau and they're on this earth. When the Lord shows up, they're going to be judged, man. All right, especially in America. But he was speaking about Europe. He was talking about the Catholic Church, right? The false prophet, and the European Union, the Roman Empire, which would be the dragon. All right, he was speaking about how they came out of the pit. He didn't say this, but I was thinking of scripture when he was talking, and how the dragon came out of the pit and put us in chains, put us in slavery. All right, and it's been going on ever since. So I'm gonna get into that topic real quick. Get two scriptures only. Try to make these quick. Obadiah 1:6. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All right, and it's not really hidden. It's just they say you put things in a book. Our people won't read it. They won't ever get it because they won't read. A lot of people, and we couldn't read before, and they try to hide it. All right, just like today, what they call it, taking down the monuments. If they take down all the monuments, you're getting rid of the proof. But that's why the Lord said He'll remember it. All the wickedness of Esau is going to come into the Lord's mind. It's going to come back to His mind in the time of judgment. He's going to judge the great whore America. All right, which is their hammer. The European Union and the Roman Empire and NATO. They use all their they gain all their strength and momentum through America. All right, Babylon. So let me get this real quick. Verse 8. It says, shall I not in that day, saith Yahweh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of the mount of Esau? All right. And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. So everyone that is from the foundation of Edom, that stems from that bloodline, is going to be cut off, and it's going to be by slaughter. All right. Ultimately, after 1,000 years. All right, all of them gonna be cut off. It's gonna be by slaughter. It's gonna begin when Yahweh Shai shows up. All right, the judgments are gonna begin. So now it says Otiman, and that represents their elites. Those elite bankers, the Jesuits that had us in slavery, called the Roman Catholic Church. All right, it says Obadiah 1 and 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. All right, they're gonna realize that they're Esau, especially when they're in chains, and when Yahushua shows up, and he's a so-called black man from the tribe of Judah, and they realize they've been persecuting the Lord's people, like Hitler tried to tell them. All right, now if you look up in history, man, you'll realize that slavery started really back in 1488. All right, and a little bit before that, you had I think in the 40s, 1440s, something like that. Around the time that guy was talking about in the beginning, he said 1455, I think. But around 1440s, you had Pope Innocent III. Whenever he was on the scene, and he was the one that was really like, yo, we're a superior race to these people. We're the top people on this earth. The Roman Empire rules. The Jesuits rule. Anybody that's not a Christian, see, that's that Christian mindset. All right, since that whole Councils of Nicaea in 325 that established the world of Christendom, which has nothing to do with the truth, with the scriptures. All right, it's all put together by pagan mindsets. You see that? Now, what happened was you had in the early 2nd century AD, all right, you had somebody named Nerva. You also had, what was his name, man? Septimius Severus. Now, Severus didn't only take office by plundering, he took it by political gain as well. Meaning, I forgot the guy that died before him. I don't want to be wrong. I think it was Licinius. But anyway, they killed the guy before him, and it was an Edomite, and it was his own generals that killed him. All right. Now, when that happened, Constantine, he wanted to he was all about honor. He was all about honoring your leader. So what he did was he went out to go against all of those cavalry that went against their own leader. And that's what helped him gain his power seat in the Roman Empire. I think he came to power around 315 AD. So when he came into power, he wanted to take Britain. All right, he wanted to take Britain and bring it under Roman Catholic rule. So this is how in the word Severus means to sever, but he wasn't the only one. You had Nerva, you had a lot of our people that were ruling at that time, because it wasn't based on color. It wasn't based on black, African, nothing like that. It was based on tribes. All right, when you got over here to America, they started going according to the word black during the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Panthers. But going back all the way to 1488, that's when the dragon came out of the pit, because they were bound up. And then you had the fall of Rome in 410 AD. So after the fall of Rome, the Western Roman Empire, the Edomites, they were in a low form of living, and they came out of the pit, out of Europe, and took back their lands, like Constantinople. They took those lands back, Istanbul, from Constantine's descendants. All right. Or rulers after Constantine. They took it back from Jake after the Byzantine Empire. All right. So now you had Esau coming out of the pit around the 1400s. All right. and they fell around 410 BC, AD. So then you go 1,000 years into the future, you get the 1400s. Now, in the 1400s, you get this. In 1488, Pope Innocent VIII accepted the gift of 100 slaves from Ferdinand II of Aragon, and this was what's that? 4 years before 1492, when Columbus was sent out, and they had all 9 European countries that would begin something called the race. The race. It began a race for grabbing slaves and a power seat, and they would send anybody out and say, "Hey, man, if you go over there and slave them people, you can be rich." All right, and it was poor Edomites that was like, "What?" And they would get on the ships and they would go out and become rich by taking slaves and bringing slaves back to Europe. Now, so that was 1488, where Pope Innocent VIII accepted the gift of 100 slaves, and he called them dark skinned. All right, he said these dark skinned people, they're inferior to us, and that's what the beginning of racism started. Before that, they was picking people out according to their beliefs. If you were an Israelite and following the Israelite faith, then they would go after you. All right, but then after a while, they changed it to just saying the Roman Catholic Church is the superior religion. And then they said Christianity, and then they said those Edomites, according to color, were a superior race. But the Lord said they're small among the heathen. All right. Esau is a small nation. They're a big nation because there's a lot of nations on this earth. And they got a lot of tribes within that nation. Their top tribe is Amalek. All right. But they're still small among all the other nations, especially the children of Israel, because it's 12 tribes of nations. All right. So now it says, so that's when slavery, according to color, started around the time Pope Innocent VIII. He was the first one that really coined our people as being dark skinned, saying, hey, they're those dark skinned people. All right. Now this is right here. It says, check this out, yo. It's crazy. Esau, man. Let me see. It says King Ferdinand gave Pope Innocent, all right, gave him 100 Moorish slaves. Now, do that mean they was Islamic? No, it just means they were Moorish. Now, that's what they meant by Moorish. I'm gonna show you. It says, who were shared out with favorite cardinals, so they were passing our people around. The slaves of Innocent were called Moro, meaning dark-skinned man. All right, so I'm gonna read that again. The slaves of Innocent were called Moro, meaning dark-skinned man, in contrast to Negro slaves who were called Moro Nero. You see that? So they had so-called Negro slaves, and at some point they said anybody that's dark-skinned is called a Moro. But they also called it Moro Nero. All right, which means like dark-skinned man. So that's when slavery really started, is in the 1400s. This is it says when the age of discovery. That's what they call it, the age of discovery. That's what time it was, man. When Esau was discovering themselves and discovering their greed and discovering the whole world. All right. They called them what? Colonizers. They started colonizing the earth. When the age of discovery greatly increased the number of slaves owned by Christians, Edomites, basically, the response of the clergy under strong political pressures was confused and ineffective in preventing the establishment of slave societies in the colonies of Catholic countries. So they didn't. It's just like today, man. Esau sees somebody trying to hang a brother, they're going to act like they help him, but they're not really doing anything. All right. Early papal bulls such as Pope Nicholas V's 1452 Doom Diversus, meaning paper bulls, like it was like a scroll that they would write. All right, and they would put a bulla on it, which would be a stamp. That's what they called it back then, bulla. Or Romanus Pontifex from 1454 permitted the perpetual servitude of Saracens and pagans in Africa, were used to justify enslavement of natives and the appropriation of their lands during this era. So they used that against the Native Americans, the northern tribes, and also against the southern tribes of Israel. It's clear who they were after. Even in Columbus used the Apocrypha to find America. All right, he said it was the place of the Jews. They were Israelites there. All right, I'm gonna read this real quick, and I'm gonna get to the scriptures. It says Muslims both in Reconquista and Christian, they should say Edomite or pagan attempts to expand into North Africa had recently, and that's where we were at. We were in North, West, and South Africa. Actually, we were all over the place. Had recently begun to be augmented with slaves taken from sub-Saharan Africa, and that's where you had something called the Saharan slave trade, and that was just as bad as the Atlantic and mid-Atlantic slave trade. Had recently begun to be augmented with slaves taken from sub-Saharan Africa. Unfortunately, so we were Israelites, not African, but we were in Africa. Unfortunately, Spain and Portugal were the leaders of the Age of Discovery. So Spain and Portugal, man. All right, those were the two main Edomite beacons that went out and destroyed our people. All right, that was the first slave warehouse over there in Portugal. Then you had a guy named Henry the Navigator. I think he was sent down in the 1500s. He was the one that brought the first slave from the coast of Africa. All right, and they started going out and plucking our people off from around the world. And that's when that place was being prepared for us, according to Revelations 12. All right, he prepared a place for us when we ran into the wilderness, which is all over the world, and especially Europe and Africa at the 70 AD. All right, starting with Herod when he came out against Yahushua, and all the way up until 70 AD and on. All right, and then the enslavement of our people started after Esau came out of the pit. They came out of their low condition that the Lord had them in. The Lord brought them back out to deceive the nations and get prepared for World War III today. All right, they established the European Union. They established NATO, a reflection of the Roman Empire. And they established America, Babylon. All right. Now you have, and took their slave, where was it? Spain and Portugal were the leaders. They were the leaders in the Age of Discovery. So they're going to be the first ones to go into slavery. And took their slave making attitudes to their new territories in the Americas, man, the bitter land. All right, Babylon, the great whore. And America was fully established in 1766 with the 13 colonies when they broke away from British rule, authority, and they were considered the Declaration of Independence or free. All right, well, we were still in bondage. You can read a speech called "What Is 4th of July to a Slave?" This was Esau's freedom from their own people. All right, it was our bondage. The freedom of Esau means more bondage for us. All right, when the wicked are in authority, the people mourn. The first, it's just a Israelite slaves arrived in the Spanish territory of Hispaniola in 1501. That was around the time of Henry the Navigator. He was sent out to navigate. Over the next centuries, millions of Africans were taken to the New World in the African slave trade. All right, so Columbus he never found America. All right, so let me get this real quick. This is Revelations 20:1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And who is that? That's talking about Yahushua. This is Revelations 1:18. I am he that liveth, and this is talking about Yahushua, so-called Negro from the tribe of Judah. And I am he that liveth and was dead. And behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And have the keys of hell and death. So the Lord can put you in the bondage and take you out of it. All right. He can put you in a sorrowful situation and put you to death. Or he can give you life. He can put a nation to death or rise a nation up. All right. Daniel 4:17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know. All right, so if you're alive today, this is set up for us to know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, not Esau, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. All right, and that's the basest, the lowest of men. The Lord set up Esau, the caveman, and set them from braying in the bushes and growling and shit, and raised them up to be who they are today. And the Lord gonna bring them way back down to their original position. All right, and that's righteousness. All right, I got a lot of scriptures firing off in my mind right now, but of course, I'm just speaking. You have Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So this whole world is ruled by Esau. All right, and it's been given into the hand. And it can also be taken away. Revelations 20:1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. All right, and the bottomless pit represents Europe. It was in a low condition at that time. It says, verse 2, and he laid hold on the dragon, that's Yahushua. He laid hold on the Roman Empire, Esau. That old serpent, and that's how you know who the serpent is. The old serpent in the garden, that spirit came back on Esau. All right. It says, which is the devil. So the word devil means deceiver. So the Roman Empire, the Europeans, they're the deceiver. And it says what? And Satan. So they're the adversaries against our people, the enemy. And bound him 1,000 years. So from 410 AD all the way up to the 1400s. That's 1,000 years. All right. But the beginning of them being cut off with Severus was around the 2nd century AD. All right. And before him, Nerva. But they really didn't start falling or getting cut off politically and by their infighting within their ranks. All right. They had 2 generals that got killed. I think Nerva got killed as well. But then you had Severus step up. His name means to sever. And the Lord around that time was severing the Roman Empire from their rulership. All right. And all the way up until the 410 AD, you had the sack of Rome. All right. The fall of Rome, where Esau was fighting against themselves. So now the 10 horns. So now here you go. It says verse 3. And cast him into the bottomless pit. So the Lord brought Esau down. Just like we are in America today. They were in a low condition. And cast them out into Europe, the mountains of Europe. It says, and shut them up. And set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more. So that shows that the reason these Edomites are in power today is because Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. He has control over them. That's why we say, please, Lord, deliver us from the wicked, which is thy sword. The Lord set them up. All right. So the Lord can shut him up, or he can bring him out. It says, and shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. And that's right now. We're in that little season right now. All right. It's only been a short time from the 1400s all the way to 2020. So they've been loose for a little season. They built through, in that little season, they've enslaved all the nations of Israel. They're like a vacuum, consume people, seek, kill, and destroy. Habakkuk too. They enlarge their desires as hell, man. All right. So, and is as death. So now, so they would loose the little season. Now in that little season, you had all the way up until you had NATO being formed in 1950s. All right. Then you had from 1949 all the way to 1951. Then you had the European Union, the Western European Union, in 1970s. All right, that extended out all the way up until what was it called? The Treaty of Rome. All right, the European Union called the Treaty of Rome. That's how you know that's the Roman Empire. But then you had America established as well. All right, with the independent war. All right, and that and they were really established in the 1700s. Now through America, you get our place of bondage. All right, the judgment place, the string that's going to unravel the whole ball of yarn when the Lord pulls it. All right, so let me get this real quick. All right, Psalms 10 and 15. Break thou the arm of the wicked. And what's their arm? What's represent their strength, spiritually, financially, religiously, financially, and militarily. Those are the spirits of that leaped out of the mouth of the frog. All right, it's the Roman Empire, as we're speaking of in this lesson. NATO and the militaries and policing around the world, and their banking system ran by the Jesuits in Europe. All right, so we're praying to the Lord to break thou the arm of the wicked man and the evil man, Esau. All right, not just Esau, but all the wicked. And seek out his wickedness till thou find none. That's why I said, how are the things of Esau searched out, as I brought out in the beginning of this lesson. All right, I'm gonna read that again. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. So how are the things that Esau searched out? Because Yahushua is doing it. He's going across that, searching it out as with a candle, putting a candle to it. 16. And Yahweh is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. And that's going to happen. The fake Jews are going to get out of our land. Psalms 10 and 17. Yahweh, thou hast heard the desire of the humble, which would mean his prophets. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear. All right, so he prepared our hearts to speak, and he causes his ear to hear us speaking and crying out, just like in Egypt. Verse 18, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, man. So to judge the fatherless, when the Lord cast us away, we became fatherless and we became oppressed. All right. It says that the man of the earth may no more oppress. So the Lord is going to stop Esau from oppressing our nations real soon. And that's why he said, wait ye upon the Lord, all right, till he rise up to the prey.